Chris here, and I'm back with the Mi Pad 4. So this tablet I have been using for some time, since its release, since day one. I haven't really put it down. It is my favorite Android 8.1 tablet, and the favorite tablet that I have actually seen this year. It is really good. But we have now the 10.1 inch model from Xiaomi. So this is called the Mi Pad Plus, and it has a couple of improvements. So first of all models have LTE support. It's a micro SIM. It doesn't have LTE band 20, however. For those of you that need that in Europe, you'll be disappointed with that. Micro SD card support as well on all of them. And we do have now a new fingerprint reader at the front. This is an always-on fingerprint reader. It works really well. And the battery capacity has increased to 8,620 milliamp hours. And in my 2 days testing now, this is a very hard battery to kill. It just goes and goes and goes. You can get up to 17, 18 hours with this battery life. And the specs, well, the Snapdragon 660, 4GB of RAM. My model has these 64GB of storage. So they are similar specs there, but you also get to, with this one, GPS. For those of you that want GPS in a tablet, if you're a boatie, you want to use it for navigation and things, it also has a hardware compass. So there's quite a few improvements with this model. Let's check this one out in greater detail. So we'll start out with having a look at what we get inside the box. So the packaging has the tablet right up to the edge of the box. So if some of the Chinese manufacturers are going to ship it out without any extra packaging, it could possibly get damaged. There's something to be aware of there. So we have a little slip here. Now this has all your warranty card, quick start guide, and the SIM tray tool, but it is all, of course, in Chinese. So I won't bother opening that at all. We get a USB to Type-C cable in grey and white, and a 5V 2A charger here. So this is not quick charge. The tablet doesn't actually support quick charge, possibly because it has such a large battery. Charge time, it is 3 hours and about 55 minutes. So it is quite slow, but it is a large battery at 8,620 milliamp hours. So the tablet is just like the Mi Pad 4, but of course larger. And they did have space to include a fingerprint reader on the front. Now I wish that the Mi Pad, the normal edition, would have this. It's an always-on fingerprint reader, and it works 10 out of 10 times. Up the top, you will find a 5 megapixel camera. We have a status LED. Now this is just white, and that's the one to the right of the camera. To the left is an ambient light sensor, and you can see that it does have a matte anti-glare screen protector on it out of the box. On the back there's a metal unibody, and we do have the camera that does protrude by about a millimeter. It's 13 megapixels, and using an application called Open Camera you can shoot in 4K. So this back plate here, this is plastic. The rest is alloy, and you can just make out there a tiny microphone that's used for video. So it does record in stereo. A 3.5mm headphone jack that outputs a very clean, loud audio. On the upper left hand side you will find our SIM tray. So it's one nano SIM and a micro SD card, and it does have a metal frame around it, and overall it feels good. The build quality of this tablet is excellent. Well, apart from the buttons on the right hand side, so the volume rocker and then the power on button, just like the Mi Pad 8-inch version, the Mi Pad 4, they rattle around a little, so that is a minor complaint there from me. And lastly, along the bottom you will find another microphone, 2 downwards firing loudspeakers, Type-C port, and there are 2 Torx screws that secure the rear housing into place, making it a little stronger. Now the black paint job, it does show up the fingerprints and smudges pretty bad. But if you go for the champagne gold one, then you don't really see those smudges and fingerprints as much. You probably would have already spotted that the edges have a nice roundedness to them. So this is a plastic frame around the glass. It's a fully laminated 1920 by 1200 panel, but the way they have this secured in place means that everything is really quite solid. There's no creak, there's no flex at all. Very solid feeling tablet. Just to point out too that the fingerprint reader is also a home button. So tapping this, it'll take you to home. It's not a click and style, it's completely hard, but it would be nice if they'd put some capacitive menu keys here either side. They do have space for it. Weight wise, it comes in to be 488 grams, making it 144 grams heavier than the smaller 8-inch version. Now when you take a look at the bezels, they are slimmer on the left and right, top and bottom. Yes, we still have a bit of bezel here, but overall it's quite a good look compared to your typical Chinese 10.1 inch tablet that would have large bezels. So we have 4GB of RAM, and it is the Snapdragon 660 with a maximum turbo of 2.2 GHz,
That's an octa-core CPU, and it is running Android 8.1, MIUI 9.6 is the skin on the top. You get 52.11 gigabytes free on first boot, and we do have, of course, micro SD card support as I showed you. Now, at the time of this video, there is no global ROM, and this is the Chinese ROM, so it's in English or Chinese only at this point, but later on there should be that release that will have, of course, multiple languages on here. You get a little bit of your typical Xiaomi bloat, and a lot of it you can uninstall. The Mi Pad 4 Plus posts a decent Antutu score, as you can see, about 140,000. This is more or less the same as its smaller version. Just like the internal storage, so it's eMMC 5.1 spec, and these are very decent speeds you get here for this type of drive. Now, in my testing with Orange Spain, they are horrible by the way, I'm getting as fast as I could out of any mobile phone as well with the same exact SIM card. So no complaints with the coverage as well. Signal strength is good. And as I pointed out, that we cannot make phone calls for some reason with this particular model, even though it does have the modem, it does have the SIM card slot, it's got everything there, but we just don't have the dialer. Wireless range and speeds, again, excellent. It's just like the Mi Pad 4, so very good. It tops out about 400 megabits per second. And some good news here, we've got GPS on this model for boaties, for people that want to travel that need GPS. It does work very good, so the typical Qualcomm chipsets, not like the MediaTek ones that often struggle. This gets a lock very quick, accuracy stays around 3 meters, and yes, it does have a hardware compass. Like all Xiaomi devices, the tablet does not support Winevine level 1, so we will not have Netflix in full HD, it'll just be standard definition. Now, because it is running Android 8.1, we do have Project Treble support. However, there's no access to partitions A and B. Moving on to the display now. So when you zoom right into it, yes, you can probably start to make out some jagged edges of pixels. But at 10.1 inches, even with a resolution of 1920 by 1200, it's perfectly fine. You don't really see the pixels, unless, of course, you look at it super close. It's not like a 15.6-inch laptop that a lot of them out there are still running, of course, 1080p resolutions. The screen's gamma is around 2.0. Ideally, it should be closer to 2.2, and it has a maximum brightness of 460 lux. Now, the smaller Mi Pad 4, that one has a maximum brightness of 560 lux, so that has, to me, a better screen in there. It's not only brighter, it's sharper, of course, because it is smaller. Now, you do notice a little bit of not screen bleed, but shadowing around some of the bottom edges. You can probably see along here that it's just a tiny little bit darker. It is very minor, and if you look at just a plain black image, you do see a little bit of screen bleed, but that is a characteristic of an IPS panel. As you can see from these examples here, that the colors look very good, and you can tweak the screen using the inbuilt display tweaker tool that's in the settings. So you can adjust the white balance here, so you can set it using the little chart above. You set it to either warm, cool, and I just tweak it and put it in the middle normally myself, or you can use what is called like the standard. So that's a standard contrast. You've got your increased contrast and then automatic. That's what it's on out of the box. So when you get the tablet, it does not have Google Play installed. And if you go into the Xiaomi apps, which I've now hidden away in the tools here, you can't actually find it to install it. So what I had to do is download the Google installer. It's an APK file. And once I did that, I was able then to install it. So this is what the file looks like. It's all in Chinese. You just run through it and it starts to download and then install Google Play for you. Or just wait for the global ROM, of course, if you're not happy doing that sort of thing yourself. So the ROM performance, wanted to point out that it is very good. The touch accuracy, the touch time, the response, really good. And I've been doing a bit of multitasking here, and that performance is fine. The only time I have seen some stutter animation lag is when you're in the full screen gestures, which of course I'm not using at the moment. I've got the navigation keys down the bottom. Full screen gestures does work well. It's just when you unlock sometimes you see a little bit of stutter there. Now we'll show you quickly Chrome performance, that this is very smooth, the scrolling, and again the input from your touch, the fingers, really good. And I'll load up a page that I have not actually loaded up right yet. So we'll just click on that, and you see everything pops up really quick. And as mentioned, that the wireless range and the strength and the speed of it is very good. So I'll go back out of here. Free available RAM, you get normally, you can see I've got 2.1 gigabytes at the moment. And that should be enough for most people. I find that if you're doing super heavy multitasking, yes, it will start to get a little slower there. also wanted to point out too that we do have face unlocking. Now I've got the tripod in the way, but most of the time you can see that worked really good. And this to me means it's either working really well or it's not actually that secure. I believe it's not really that secure, but if you are not happy with the face unlocking, how insecure it really is, then use a fingerprint reader. So this is always on. I simply just touch it and it unlocks, and it works 10 out of 10 times exactly like Xiaomi's mobile phones. It is very good and great to have this feature, just that added level of security. And then of course we do have split screen mode. So I've got a PDF file open, my website open here, and that is fine. That kind of performance is all good. I haven't really seen it bogged down. Unlike the Helio X20, the X23, and even the X27 tablets I've looked at, they tend to bog down when you're in split screen mode. They get a little bit laggy, but this does not. Compared to the MediaTek chipsets, this Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 really does fly and is just so much faster than those ones. YouTube as well, no problems. This is 1080p streaming. It keeps up. Amazon Prime too. That's going to work just fine. You're not going to have any problems with this, but the problem you will run into is Netflix. Netflix will only run in your standard lower resolution. That is it, because of that Winevine level 3 cert it has. And reading a PDF file here now in full screen, it looks good, even though the screen is not the sharpest you will see out there, especially at 10.1 inches. We have a lot of 2560 by 1600 screens out there now that are a lot sharper. I find that it's still perfectly fine at your normal typical arm's length reading distance. As I'll show you again, zooming into the text here. And then eBooks, they look great on the screen, and you do have the filters you can apply. So you've got the blue light filter, and then you also have reading mode that can put the whole screen into black and white mode. Alright, and onto music. So Xiaomi really knows how to do 3.5mm headphone jack output. To me, they do one of the best. Even when it comes to flagship phones, they always seem to have very good 3.5mm audio. It's nice and loud, it's clean, it's crisp. It doesn't have any static or interference, and there's the same exact case here. Just like the Mi Pad 4, it does sound very good. So what about the speakers? They sound identical to the smaller 8-inch version to me, downwards firing, and at 100%, they sometimes can distort a little bit, but overall, these are decent speakers. They're loud, and they have a little bit of bass, but here is a sample of them. Now I have a little bit of a dilemma of which one of these to keep. I'm going to be flying down to New Zealand, long haul flight. I have to do one flight from Dubai to Auckland that is 16 hours, and I want a decent tablet. And I want to take either one of these, one of them only that I can travel with. So on one hand, I want to take this one for the better screen, the portability. It is smaller and it has a brighter, sharper screen. But I do like the fact that this has much better battery life. It can go for up to 16 hours straight. And we've got a fingerprint reader on the front, just makes it a little bit more comfortable. No typing in a password that people can see. Just place my finger on there, unlock it, and yeah, it just works. Yes, you've got face unlocking on both of them as well. Now 4G, obviously in a flight, I cannot use that, but I can use 4G later on, which is another reason why I'm leaning towards the Mi Pad 4 Plus, the larger one. It's really quite hard to choose which one to go for at this point, but portability, definite winner. Features, this one, and battery life, the definite winner as well, so you go for the Plus version. And what about gaming? So titles that are demanding, like Lineage 2 Revolutions, on the highest setting is perfectly playable. It runs fine without any issues. Shadowgun Legends, so this is running on the high setting, 60 frames per second, and it is very playable. Maybe now and then you do see a little bit of stutter, so maybe medium could actually be a better setting, but overall, performance is good, it's smooth, and it's a great looking game. Very good graphics. Asphalt 9 Legends, this is on the high visual setting. It's running well. Now and then you do see a frame dip. Now PUBG, so this is on the HD setting, high frame rate, and it's running fine. It's good. You can zoom in with the scope, and you don't really get any massive lag or anything like that, but now and then you do see a little bit of stuttering here and there, to be expected. This is not the most powerful chipset, but overall, the main thing is we're getting a steady playable frame rate. And lastly, onto battery life. So it is excellent, really good here. I've got 13 hours, 34 minutes that I have had the screen on for. I've got 15% battery left, and I could probably make at least, I would say, close to 15 hours. So a lot of people out there should be able to get 16, 17 hours out of this tablet. I'm not joking, it is really good. It is so hard to kill the massive batteries. So it's 8,620 milliamp hours, which is huge when you look at the size of this tablet. Now here's a sample from the front-facing camera. So it records in 1080p. You cannot change a lot of settings at all with this camera. And one thing to note too, that the mics, they are in stereo, which is good. And I've used this with Skype, and overall, these cameras are above average. Now the rear camera, you can shoot in 4K if you use a third-party application called Open Camera. The photo quality, I won't show you many test photos here. You can just see a couple. It'll take an okay photo, but your mobile phone will be better. But overall, above average cameras here on the Mi Pad 4 Plus. And this is what the quality is like. It's sharp because it's 4K. The focus, I don't actually think it works very well. But for a tablet, this is not bad quality at all.
Alright, so quickly recapping, this is a fantastic tablet. They both are really good. Now, which one should you go for? It's all down to your personal choice, obviously, on what is better for you. 8 inches or the 10.1. Now the 10.1 can be a little bit heavy after holding it for an hour or so watching a video on a train or a plane, but you can get stands, you can get cases, so you can get around that problem there. But the pullability and the size, I find this one's a little bit easier for gaming. So if you're playing PUBG for extended long periods, I found that this is just a little bit better overall because you can get your thumbs in there, you've got easy contact to touch the whole screen there. So touch response on both of these screens is really good. The sharpness on this one is better, of course, because it's 8 inches with the same exact resolution, where it's a little bit more stretched out. So when you look closer, you will be able to see the pixels a little more on the Mi Pad 4 Plus. But of course, the Plus has a lot more going for it. It has a much larger battery. So I get around 12 hours of battery life on this one. I'm going to be able to get about 16 on this one. So you get an additional 4 hours, perhaps even more. Now, if you just played straight video, then you'll be able to get 17 hours on this. The battery life is absolutely amazing. And in my test here, I tried to kill the battery. It is really hard to do because it just goes and goes and goes. Fingerprint unlocking, I mean, I can demonstrate that now to you, that it's just always on, and it's like the phones. It's instantaneous, really good. General performance is very good. It's not the fastest Android tablet out there. That would go probably to the Samsung Tab S4, of course, with a more powerful chipset. But that is a very expensive tablet. This one costs about half the price of that one, and you're getting quite a bit. So LTE band 20 is not there. There's a little bit of rattle on the side with the volume rocker, just like this particular model here. Apart from that, the build is really good. 3.5mm headphone jack quality, again, very good. You cannot make phone calls with it, which is a surprise because the other Android tablets I've looked at, you can. And they could have added the dialer in here because after all, we've got a SIM card in there. It does have dual microphones, and we have a headset jack that supports microphones. So why no calls, Xiaomi? I don't know. They don't want us to do that. They want us to get a phone, or I don't know. Who knows their reasoning behind that? So, all in all, very good tablet. I really do like it, and it does come recommended from me, as especially for people that want GPS as well with the compass. Definitely this is the one to go for over the smaller model, which again is really great. So make sure you check out my review of the Mi Pad 4, that is right up here, and then my latest videos. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.